welcome back to another episode of World of Tanks with Ungainly Titan. World of Tanks SummerSlam now. Another branding iteration. So this, I think, is going to be a pattern for World of Tanks in the future. It looks like they're going to try and get sponsorships. I don't know whether this will last the year or whether it'll just be the summer season. This SummerSlam season is lasting until September. For the current iteration of tanks, and you do your various competitions, and then you can win free tanks, and you can win crossover crews with the WWE crews. Not particularly enthused by it myself, but then I'm not really playing World of Tanks at the moment for free tanks as such. I mean, yes, they're nice to get, but I'm not particularly bothered by it at the moment. Don't particularly like the garage. It's a bit cheesy, but the biggest problem I have with it is the desultory cheering. It's just not dramatic enough for WWE wrestling arena. They cheer a lot louder, and there's fireworks and music and all sorts of stuff going on. And the other thing is that if you have the garage open in the background and you're just not working with the console, you hear this kind of low level, unenthusiastic cheering in the background, and you kind of go, it's kind of annoying. I didn't mind the jungle sounds from the old Mercenaries garage, but the current one, do without it really. However, that's only a minor thing really. I think if if Wargaming want or need the sponsorship from WWE to keep the game running, then fair enough, I'll take it. There are other more significant changes made in the game that are actually more interesting. Speaking of the WWE crews, one of the changes I've noticed seems to be brought in with this one. I didn't spot it before anyway in previous news. I think it was related to the 5.0 update. You now have a crew customization option that if you get a custom crew, like say Richard Cutland from the Valor season, campaign, whatever you want to call it, instead of having to train poor old Richard up from the start, and he didn't get any special perk or nothing despite his 30 years of service in the Royal Tank Regiment, he should have had brothers in arms to start with or something. Anyway, but that's just me. The thing is that, and I presume it will apply to crews with special skills, like the Snakebite crew or various other crews like that, Craft Panther and things, that came with special skills at the start. You can now transfer the portrait essentially to a crew that's already trained. So you have a crew for your Super Conqueror or something like that, and you want to transfer over. And the other big event, of course, is the crossplay. Crossplay with the PlayStation. We now have crossplay with the PlayStation, and potentially more importantly, they've officially dropped the Xbox 360 support, and that might be a significant element. Now, my experience of the crossplay has been very positive so far, but I just want to talk a little bit about the 360. I think really was holding up the game, because the 360 is a very old console at this point in time, and it had quite a lot of limitations. So giving yourself the option of getting rid of those limitations means that you can have a lot more effects on the maps. One of the things is there's a lot more placeables and stuff like that, maybe bigger maps. Now, I just wanted to show a couple of screen caps here of team layouts, team sheets from the various battles that I was in, and you can see that the vast majority of players on the Euro server are PlayStation players at this point in time. Now, I don't know whether this is because there was a huge population of 360 players that have been abandoned on the Euro server, or whether there was always a predominance of Xbox or PlayStation players in the area covered by the Euro server. My experience is that there's a lot more PlayStation players in the earlier part of the day. So mid-afternoon, late morning, mid-afternoon, early afternoon, overwhelmingly PlayStation. Still majority PlayStation at night, but more Xbox players appear. So I would suspect there's probably more Xboxes in Western Europe. And people further east have more PlayStations. Or something like that. The other thing though I have noticed is that the queue times have almost disappeared. The queue timer screen almost never appears. You'll see it now in a moment. We'll be switching into a new game and we'll be going from garbage to game. And the queue timer screen, in my experience, I was getting a minute on average prior to the merge of the two systems. Whereas now, it frequently goes instantaneously. You don't see the queue timers. You'll see that screen. You're in a battle queue. But only for a very short amount of time. And sometimes not at all. So that was now Wednesday, Thursday. That may slow down as people who have tried out the crossplay and go, yeah, we've tried it out now and we're happy with it or whatever, and they go back to doing whatever they were doing before the crossplay came along. And they decided to try it, so they're back to playing World of Tanks to a sort of more normal schedule. But this brings me to the other thing I wanted to talk about. They have decided, for various reasons, to put the auto siege mode into two new tanks. The ST-1, which I think may have had a suitable suspension anyway, historically, and the T95E2, which, as far as I know, didn't. And they've put this auto siege mode on these two tanks. Now the T95E2 definitely needed something. And it is a definite improvement to the tank. It still has the problems that the T95E2 suffers from. Essentially, you've got very troll armour and very troll gun. Which is not a great combination. And it's not a terribly mobile tank. It's got a reasonable enough, like by American tank standards, it's got a reasonable enough top speed, but the acceleration of power to weight leaves a little something to be desired. So it had like 10 degrees or 9 degrees of gun depression previously, which wasn't bad, but the trouble is that it has this 90mm weak spot up on top of the commander's hatch machine gun turret. On top is a massive weak spot. And the other problem with this tank is that it has a very poor enough gun handling. It very rarely actually hits on the move. That's actually one of those lucky exceptions. I have missed practically point blank range on the move with this tank. And it doesn't have great penetration, so it's got a longish aim time, poor enough dispersion, and not great in the penetration department. If you improved any one of the elements, load time, dispersion probably most of all, it would transform the tank. And it's a tank that is transformed in many respects by having a good crew in it. Now I have a good crew in it on this particular occasion, but it's not a tank that you're going to have good games if you were training a crew in or whatever. And you can see there I'm not having any impact in the front of the Trinity, which is why I went for the 430 instead. If I can get through the side of the 430, that's for premium ammo. In fact, I could probably get through the side of the 430 with regular ammo, but anyway. However, they've now added auto siege mode, which has added a considerable amount of extra gun depression. I think it's got 14 degrees of gun depression now, which is massive. And it really makes a difference, because there's no way I would have gotten these shots in at the 45 TP prior to this. Just no way I would have gotten the gun down. I would have had so much tank exposed that everybody with 2 or 3 tanks would be shooting at me. and I'd have been relying on snapshots to try and get damage done, which was very hit and miss with this, literally very hit and miss with this tank because of the nature of the gun, because of the poor dispersion, and the poor penetration. So it's still not a great tank, but it's a hell of a lot better than it used to be. Now I don't know if I have an ST1 or STB1. So I haven't tried it out with that, but definitely I'm at the moment actually playing American premiums, British premiums a lot, because I need some extra cruise training and I need silver. Yes, I've managed to run myself down on silver. All these new tanks, outfitting and equipping them, has managed to wipe out my silver reserve almost entirely. Those shots on the side of the T-30 as well wouldn't have been possible without the auto siege mode, and as you saw I was receiving fire from across the swamp when I was firing at the T-30. So that would have meant that in previous circumstances, if I was trying those shots, I would have been exposing the whole of the tank and all of the turret. And in that case, I would have been receiving fire because the turret wasn't going to bounce shots. A lot of people knew where they were shooting, as long as they avoided the gun mantlet. Obviously the cupola on top is much harder to hit at range. So if you can keep this tank, if you've got a ridgeline, and you can keep the range open up the range, and you take your time with this tank, you can be a lot more effective. And it opens up areas on battlefields that weren't previously available. So this is potentially another thing that benefited Crossplay that I think is, as I said about battlefield area, is that if you had the Crossplay now, the abandonment of the Xbox 360, potentially means I think that bigger battlefields are now possible. Because my understanding was when the PlayStation was introduced first, Scorpion Pass was supposed to be a PlayStation exclusive map, and it was bigger. Now I don't know how much bigger it was, but I get the impression it was substantially bigger than the current map, particularly on the eastern side of the map. The eastern side was actually a playable area, because it wasn't just that narrow little corridor where you can only travel along the edge of the escarpment and the map border, that there was actually space to maneuver on the eastern side of the map, where there isn't now in that game. The eastern side of the map is just a complete bottleneck. So I look forward to the changes. Definitely, I think look forward. I also look forward to them revisiting some tanks. I would like if they actually did a proper rebalance or something like that, just to give some love to particularly some of the older tanks that were either never competitive or certainly not competitive against some of the current premiums and things that have been added that are quite powerful. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please press like, comment, share. It really helps the channel out. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.